My name is Eli. I'm 27 years old and I live in a quiet suburb just outside Denver, Colorado. I work as an electrical technician. It's not a dream job, but it's steady. It pays the bills, keeps the lights on in my small second-floor apartment, and leaves me enough money for a beer or two on the weekends. I like my life simple and predictable. No big surprises, no drama. Or at least, that's what I used to think. My apartment is nothing special. Old hardwood floors that creak when I walk. A couch I bought off Craigslist. And a coffee maker that sounds like it might give up any day now. I've lived here long enough to know every sound. The hum of the air conditioner next door, the clatter of mailboxes in the morning, the smell of laundry drifting up from the basement. It all feels familiar, like background noise to my life. Right next door lives Chloe. She's 24 and in her final year of med school. Always tired, always studying, always rushing out the door with her hair half tied back and a coffee in her hand. We've been neighbors for almost 2 years. Somewhere along the way, she stopped feeling like just the girl next door and started feeling like part of my routine. We waved when we checked the mail, talked about the weather, sometimes split a pizza when neither of us felt like cooking. On slow Sunday nights, we watched movies together, usually old romantic comedies she loved and quoted word for word. It was easy, comfortable, safe. I never thought much about it. She was just Chloe, my neighbor, my friend. Until last Friday night, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror, holding up 3 different shirts. A white one, a charcoal gray one, and a navy button-down that felt a little too formal. I was going on a date, my first real date in months. Her name was Haley. I met her at a friend's barbecue a few weeks earlier. She was a graphic designer with a quick laugh and a nice smile. Easy to talk to. I should have been excited. Instead, I felt stuck. I kept swapping shirts, holding them up to my chest, muttering to myself. None of them felt right. I knew I was overthinking it, but dating does that to me. Then I thought of Chloe. She always had a good eye for style. Once, she helped me pick a jacket for a work event, and people actually noticed. So without thinking too much, I grabbed the shirts and stepped into the hallway. I knocked on her door. Her TV was on inside, some medical drama playing in the background. After a moment, the door opened. Chloe stood there in an oversized gray hoodie, the sleeves covering her hands. Her dark hair was in a messy bun. She held a mug of tea, and her eyes looked tired. "Hey, Eli," she said. "What's up?" I held up the shirts. "Need your help. Got a date tonight, and I'm failing the wardrobe part." For just a second, her expression changed. It was quick, but I noticed it. Something in her eyes shifted. She stepped aside and let me in. Her apartment looked like mine, but warmer. Books stacked on the coffee table, a blanket on the couch, the faint smell of lavender from a candle. I laid the shirts out. "So," I said, "which one makes me look normal and not like I'm trying too hard?" She sat on the floor, studying them like it was serious work. Her fingers brushed the white shirt. "The white one," she said softly. "It makes you look honest." I laughed. Honest is good, right? She didn't laugh back. She looked away. "Depends who you're trying to impress," she said, almost too quiet to hear. The room felt different then. Heavy, like something unspoken was filling the space between us. I tried to keep it light. "Her name's Haley. She's cool. I just don't want to mess it up." Chloe went quiet. Her fingers stayed on the edge of the white shirt. "You're blind, Eli," she whispered. I frowned. "What?" She looked up at me. Her eyes were shining like she was holding something back. "I'm in love with you." The words hit me hard, like someone flipped a switch in my chest. I couldn't move. I just stood there, holding the shirt, staring at her. She stood up fast, her face flushed. She turned toward the door and opened it wide. "Forget it," she said. "Just go." I tried to speak, but nothing came out. "Go, Eli," she said again, her voice breaking. I walked out. The door closed behind me with a soft click that sounded louder than it should have. I stood in the hallway for a second, my heart pounding. The white shirt felt heavy in my hands now. I went back into my apartment, not knowing what to think, only knowing that nothing felt simple anymore. I sat on my couch, staring at the ceiling, the white shirt still crumpled in my hands. My heart was racing, not in a good way. more like I had missed a step going downstairs, and my body was still trying to catch up. Chloe's words kept replaying in my head over and over. I'm in love with you. 3 simple words, but they felt heavy, like they had been waiting years to land. I checked the time. 7:15. I was supposed to meet Haley in 45 minutes at a little bistro downtown. I should have been excited. Haley was great. Smart, funny, easy to talk to. But as I pulled the white shirt over my head, all I could think about was Chloe. The way her voice cracked, the way she wouldn't look at me when she told me to leave. I grabbed my keys and headed out. The drive downtown felt unreal. Streetlights blurred past my windshield while my mind stayed stuck in that moment. Every memory with Chloe came rushing back. Pizza nights, movie quotes, the time she fixed my tie before a work event, and her fingers lingered just a second longer than necessary. Had it always been there and I just never saw it? The restaurant was busy when I arrived. Haley was already there, sitting by the window. She stood up and smiled when she saw me. Hey, Eli, she said. Nice shirt. My stomach dropped. Thanks, I said, forcing a smile as I sat down. We ordered drinks and started talking. She told me about a client who kept changing their design ideas. I told her a story about a job where a homeowner almost shocked himself trying to help me. She laughed. I smiled, but it felt like I was watching myself from far away. My eyes kept drifting toward the door like I expected Chloe to walk in any second. You okay? Haley asked gently. You seem a little distracted. Yeah, I lied. Long day at work. She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't fully convinced. Dinner passed quickly, but nothing really stuck. I kept feeling like something was missing, like I wasn't really present. I wanted to be, but my mind kept slipping back to Chloe. The way she had looked at me, the way she had poured her heart out and then pushed me away. It was like the weight of her words was pressing on my chest, keeping me from fully engaging with Haley. We stepped outside into the cool night air, and Haley smiled again, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Tonight was fun, she said. It was, I said, knowing it wasn't true. We said goodbye, and I watched her walk to her car. Guilt settled in my chest. Haley deserved someone who was present, someone whose mind wasn't stuck on the girl next door. She deserved more than what I was giving her. The drive home was quiet. No radio, just my thoughts. I kept replaying Chloe's words, trying to make sense of them. Why hadn't I seen it before? Was it always there, lingering in the background, waiting for me to notice? And why did it feel like something had shifted inside me the moment she said it? When I got back to my apartment building, it was almost 10 o'clock. The hallway was silent. Chloe's door looked the same as always, but it felt different now, like a line I didn't know how to cross. I raised my hand to knock, then stopped. What would I even say? Hey, I've been thinking about you, and now I can't stop? That sounded ridiculous. I went inside my apartment instead. The next few days were torture. Chloe disappeared. No morning wave by the mailboxes, no sound of her TV through the wall, no light under her door at night. It was like she had erased herself from my life. I didn't realize how much space she took up until she was gone. I thought about texting her something casual, but every message felt wrong. Too small, too late. By Monday morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I stopped at the coffee shop downstairs and ordered her usual medium latte with oat milk. I left it by her door before heading to work. No note, just the cup. When I got home that evening, it was gone. No message, no sign of her. But the empty spot outside her door felt like something. She had seen it. She had taken it. That night, I lay on my couch again, staring at the ceiling. The white shirt was still on the floor. Chloe's face kept flashing in my mind. Her laugh, her quiet moments, the way she always made my apartment feel less empty. By Saturday, I knew I couldn't avoid it anymore. I grabbed 2 lattes and knocked on her door. It opened slowly. Chloe stood there, looking exhausted. Her eyes were red like she hadn't been sleeping. She wore the same gray hoodie from that night. Eli, she said quietly. I didn't think you'd come. I didn't know how not to, I said, holding up the coffees. She stepped aside and let me in. We sat on her couch, the cups between us. The silence stretched until it felt unbearable. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "I shouldn't have said anything." "You didn't do anything wrong," I said. "You were honest." She shook her head. "I've been in love with you for months, maybe longer. I just couldn't keep pretending." Her words settled deep in my chest. I didn't know exactly what I felt yet, but I knew the last few days without her felt wrong. "I don't want to lose you," I said. "I want to figure this out together." She looked up at me, hope and fear mixed in her eyes. "Okay, but we go slow." "Slow is good," I said. She smiled then, small, hesitant, but real, and for the first time since that night, the air between us felt lighter. We sat there for a while after that, not saying much. The silence felt different now, not heavy or painful, just quiet, like both of us were scared to move and break something new that had just started to form. The coffee on the table went cold, but neither of us touched it. "You want to watch something?" Chloe asked softly. I nodded. "Your choice. One of those movies you can quote without even looking at the screen." She let out a small laugh, the sound easing the tension in the room. She picked an old romantic comedy we had seen more times than I could count. The opening music filled the apartment, familiar and comforting. We sat on opposite ends of the couch at first. I could feel the space between us, like a line we were both aware of. Halfway through the movie, Chloe shifted closer. Her shoulder brushed against my arm. She didn't say anything, just rested her head lightly against me. My body went still. I didn't pull away. I didn't move closer either. I just stayed there, letting the moment exist. Her warmth seeped through my sleeve, and my heart thumped louder than the movie playing in front of us. When the credits rolled, neither of us moved. "Thanks for coming over," she said quietly. "I really didn't think you would," I said. "I couldn't just pretend everything was normal," I admitted. "Not without you." She smiled at that, a small smile, but one that felt real. We talked for a while after that about her exams, about my work, about nothing important and everything at the same time. It felt easy again, but different, like the same room with the lights turned on. When I stood to leave, it was already past midnight. She walked me to the door. "Thanks for not running," she said. I smiled. "I wouldn't know where to run." That night, I slept better than I had in days. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Chloe's TV through the wall, some medical show she always fell asleep to. I smiled without thinking. It felt strange how something so small could change the way my whole day started. At work, my hands moved on their own, fixing wires and checking panels, but my mind stayed with her, the way she had looked at me in the parking lot, the warmth of her hand in mine. I kept touching the folded note in my pocket like I needed proof that all of it was real. When I got home, the sky was painted in soft orange and pink, the kind of sunset that makes everything feel calm. I texted her, "Coffee tonight, my treat." Her reply came almost right away. "Only if it's oat milk." We met at the little coffee shop downstairs, the one with the mismatched chairs and the chalkboard menu that never changed. I got there early and grabbed our usual table by the window. When Chloe walked in, my chest tightened in a good way. Her hair was down, and she wore a navy sweater that looked comfortable and familiar, like her. She smiled when she saw me, not nervous, not guarded, just warm. "You're early," she said, sitting across from me. "Didn't want to risk messing this up," I said, my own smile creeping up. She laughed, and it felt like home. We talked about everything, her finals, my work, the little things we never talked about before. There was no rush, no pressure, just two people sitting across from each other, finally paying attention. After coffee, we walked back together. The parking lot was quiet. We stopped at the stairs again, like neither of us wanted the night to end. "This feels different," she said. "Yeah," I agreed, "but it feels right." She stepped a little closer, close enough that I could smell her shampoo, lavender. "I've spent months telling myself this was stupid," she admitted, "that you'd never see me that way." "I see you now," I said, her breath caught. She reached for my hand, slow, like she was giving me time to pull away. I didn't. Our fingers intertwined, warm and sure. "Let's keep it simple," she said. "No pressure." "Deal," I said, "but I'm still going to need help picking shirts." Quote, She laughed, a real laugh that broke through the quiet night. At her door, she turned to face me. "Thanks for tonight." "Any time," I said. She went inside, and I stood there for a second, feeling something settle into place. Not fireworks, not a grand moment, just a calm certainty. For the first time, I wasn't thinking about what came next. I was just happy to be right where I was. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Chloe's TV through the wall again. The same medical show, the same comfortable, familiar noise. I smiled. It wasn't anything monumental, but it felt like a sign. I was still here. She was still here. At work, I kept catching myself smiling for no reason. My thoughts would wander back to the way she looked at me in the coffee shop, the way our fingers fit together so perfectly, like they always should have. It wasn't a rush, it wasn't some overwhelming need to have all the answers, but it felt right. Slow, steady, and right. That evening, I went to her door again. I knocked softly, the way I had last time, but this time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for a grand gesture, just for the next step in something that felt real. When she opened the door, I was holding something, the white shirt, the one she'd picked out for me weeks ago. "I figured I'd wear it for you," I said, a small grin tugging at my lips. She laughed, a soft sound, and I saw the glint in her eyes, the one that told me she had already figured it out. "You're not messing this up," she said quietly. I stepped inside, and for the first time it didn't feel like we were pretending anymore. We weren't just neighbors or friends or two people living parallel lives. We were us, whatever that meant, and it was enough. The next few days felt like they had shifted into a new rhythm, quiet, simple, and easy. We didn't rush into anything, and we didn't try to force anything either. Every time we saw each other, whether it was at the coffee shop or just passing by in the hallway, there was this subtle, unspoken connection. It was like we both knew something had changed, but neither of us wanted to speak it aloud just yet. Work felt like a blur, and my hands seemed to move faster when I thought about her. When I remembered the way she had smiled at me, the way her eyes softened whenever she looked at me now. The tension from that first night, the way she had told me she loved me and then pulled away, was gone. It wasn't forgotten, but it wasn't hanging over us anymore. It was just there, a part of the story we were starting to write together. Saturday morning came, and I decided to take a chance. I grabbed my keys, locked my door, and headed downstairs. Chloe's apartment door was still closed, the soft hum of her TV, not even a whisper through the wall today. I had no idea if she was home, but I had to try. I was done overthinking, done with hesitating. I knocked gently. There was a pause, and then the door creaked open. Chloe stood there, her hair still messy from sleep, wrapped in one of her oversized hoodies. She looked surprised to see me, but when her eyes met mine, I saw that familiar warmth. "Hey," I said, holding up a small paper bag. "Thought you might like some breakfast." She smiled, her eyes lighting up a little, but she didn't say anything at first. I wasn't sure if she was still processing everything between us, but she stepped aside and let me in without hesitation. Her apartment was quieter than usual, no TV playing in the background, no clatter of dishes. It felt different, intimate almost. I set the bag on the counter and turned to face her. She stood there, arms crossed, looking at me with a softness that was new to me. "You didn't have to do that," she said, her voice low. "I know," I replied, "but I wanted to." She glanced down at the bag, then back up at me. "You're not rushing this, are you?" "No," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not. I'm just trying to be here, with you." She nodded, a small, tentative smile appearing on her lips. The air between us felt easier. There was no pressure, no need for big gestures or declarations. Just the two of us, in this small space, finding our way. We ate breakfast together at her kitchen table. There were no awkward silences, no forced topics. We talked about everything and nothing. Her upcoming finals, my work, the weird neighbor who always parks too close to the line. We laughed. We just were. And for the first time, it didn't feel like we were dancing around the edges of something. It felt like we were standing in the middle of it. Later that afternoon, we went for a walk around the neighborhood. It was sunny, a perfect spring day. As we walked, our hands brushed a few times, but neither of us moved to hold the others. It was a quiet understanding between us that we didn't need to rush. The world didn't need to speed up just because we had started to see each other differently. At one point, I glanced at her and caught her looking at me. She looked away quickly, but I could see the faintest blush creeping across her cheeks. It made me smile, and I had to fight back the urge to pull her close. Instead, I just walked beside her, content with the simple pleasure of her presence. We sat on a bench in the park, watching the afternoon sunlight dance through the trees. I turned to her, about to say something, but she beat me to it. "You're not like I thought you'd be," she said, her voice soft. "How's that?" She shrugged. "I don't know. I guess I always thought you were just the quiet guy next door, the one who never really paid attention to me. But now, I don't know. There's more to you." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "Same goes for you, you know. You're not just the girl next door anymore." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh, what am I now then?" I paused, thinking about it. "You're Chloe, the girl I didn't know I needed." Her smile was slow, but it reached her eyes. It was real, the kind of smile that made my heart beat a little faster. "I like that," she said, leaning back on the bench, closing her eyes to enjoy the sunlight. And, in that moment, I realized something. It wasn't about figuring everything out or planning some big future. It was about being with her in this moment with no expectations. Just two people starting to understand what could be. We stayed there for a while, not talking, just enjoying the quiet, the sunlight, and the easy rhythm between us. When we finally stood up to leave, Chloe took my hand. She didn't say anything, but her fingers laced through mine, steady and sure. The walk back felt different, more natural. The connection between us was real. We didn't need to rush into anything. We were exactly where we needed to be. That night, after a simple dinner, we sat on our couch again. It was just the two of us, comfortable and familiar. I could feel the shift in the air, the way we had crossed an invisible line, but in the best way. We didn't talk about where we were going. We didn't need to. We were just content. Together. The days that followed were quiet, but they carried a warmth I hadn't expected. Chloe and I kept moving forward, but not in a rush. We spent evenings watching movies, cooking dinner together, or just talking about our days like nothing had ever been wrong between us. There were moments where I'd catch her looking at me in that soft way again, and it made my heart skip a beat every time. It was as if, after everything that had been said, after the weight of her confession, the air had cleared between us. No more second-guessing, no more running from whatever this was. It was real. But there was still a tension between us, something unspoken, something we hadn't addressed directly yet. We hadn't kissed. Not once. I wasn't sure why, but I didn't want to rush it. I liked the quiet space we had created together. I didn't want to break it with anything that felt forced. One evening, we went out to dinner at a little diner down the street. It was casual, nothing fancy, just two friends who had decided to see where things could go. But as we sat there, talking about work and her upcoming exams, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to shift. I could see it in the way she looked at me, the way she kept brushing her hair behind her ear, something nervous, something uncertain that wasn't there before. I felt it too in the tightness in my chest whenever our eyes met. After the meal, we walked back in silence. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting a soft glow across the pavement. Chloe walked close to me, but not close enough to touch, and the silence between us felt thick, like it was waiting for something. We reached the front door of her building, and she turned to face me. I looked down at her, and there it was again, that familiar quiet. But this time, it felt heavier, like it was full of things we hadn't said yet. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice soft, "about us, where we're going." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak just yet. My heart was pounding, but I wasn't sure why. I wanted to hear her, but I was afraid of what she might say. "I don't want to rush anything," she continued. "I don't want to make things complicated, but I think we're both in this, right? In whatever this is, in whatever we're doing." I took a deep breath, meeting her eyes. "Yeah, I don't want to rush either, but I'm not running away from this." She smiled softly, and I felt my chest ease a little. She hesitated, looking away for a second. "I don't want to go back to pretending we're just neighbors anymore. I can't pretend that." I stepped closer, the distance between us closing with every word. "I don't want to either." Her eyes flicked up to mine, and there was that familiar nervousness again, but it was mixed with something else now, something deeper. She took a step forward, closing the space between us. Before I could stop myself, I reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Her skin was warm under my touch. And then, without thinking, I leaned in. The moment was too perfect, too right, for either of us to pull away. Her lips met mine softly, gently, and for the first time since that night she told me she loved me, everything felt like it was falling into place. The kiss wasn't urgent, it wasn't passionate, it was simple, honest, the way we needed it to be. It was the beginning of something new, something we both needed but had never really said aloud. When we pulled away, neither of us spoke right away. The world seemed to fade around us, and for a moment all I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat, louder than anything else. "Wow," she said softly, her voice barely a whisper. "Yeah," I replied, my own voice thick with emotion. "Wow." She smiled at me, a genuine smile, one that made everything feel right. The weight of the last few weeks, all the confusion and hesitation, seemed to disappear in that moment. We didn't need to rush into anything. We didn't need answers. We just needed each other, and for the first time I was okay with that. She took a deep breath and looked up at me, her hand still resting in mine. "So, slow, right?" I chuckled softly. "Yeah, slow." We stood there for a few seconds, just holding each other's gaze, savoring the simple comfort of the moment. There was no rush, no need to say anything else. It was just us, together, finally in the place we were meant to be. "I'll see you tomorrow?" she asked, breaking the silence. "Yeah," I said, smiling. "I'll see you tomorrow." She stepped back and opened her apartment door. Before she went inside, she turned to look at me one last time. Her eyes held something I couldn't quite place, but it felt like the beginning of everything. "Good night, Eli," she said, her voice softer than ever. "Good night, Chloe," I replied. I watched her go inside and close the door softly behind her. As I stood there in the quiet of the night, I realized something. I didn't need to have everything figured out right now. All I needed was this, Chloe, and whatever we were going to make of this. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The days after that night felt different in the best way possible. Chloe and I didn't rush. We didn't need to. Every moment we spent together, every quiet conversation, every shared look, brought us closer, but in a way that was natural and effortless. There were no big gestures, no declarations of love, just us, navigating something new, something real. We spent evenings cooking dinner together in her tiny kitchen, laughing over spilled pasta or too salty soup. On lazy Sunday afternoons, we'd sit on her couch reading or watching movies, with her head resting on my shoulder and the world outside forgotten. It felt like time was slowing down just for us. One evening, after we'd finished dinner and were cleaning up together, Chloe caught me off guard. She was standing at the sink scrubbing a pan, and I was drying it, when she turned to me with a serious look in her eyes. "I don't want to scare you off," she said, her voice quieter than usual. I froze for a second, unsure of what to say. "Scare me off? What do you mean?" She shrugged, looking down at the pan in her hands. "I just don't want to move too fast. I've been through enough to know that when you rush things, they can fall apart just as quickly. I don't want that with you." I stepped closer to her, my heart tightening at the vulnerability in her words. I reached out and gently placed my hand over hers, still gripping the pan. "Chloe, I'm not going anywhere," I said softly. "I know things are different now, but I'm here. I want this, with you. I'm not in a rush either. I just want to be with you. Whatever this is, we'll figure it out together." She met my gaze, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite name. Hope, maybe even a little fear. But more than anything, there was trust. And that was all we needed. She smiled, that small, soft smile that I had come to cherish. "Okay," she whispered, "okay." We stood there for a moment, just holding each other's gaze, the world around us fading away. In that moment, I realized that it didn't matter where we were headed, as long as we were heading there together. It didn't matter if things were perfect or if we had all the answers. What mattered was that we had each other, and that was enough. Later that night, after we had finished cleaning up, we sat down together on the couch, the soft glow of the lamp casting a warm light across the room. Chloe leaned her head against my shoulder again, and I wrapped my arm around her, pulling her close. "Do you ever think about the future?" she asked quietly, her voice almost a whisper. I thought about it for a second. "I do, but not in the way I used to," I said. "I used to think I needed to have everything figured out, to know exactly what came next. But now, I think I'm just happy to be in the moment with you, to not worry so much about what's coming. Because right now, this feels right." She nodded, her eyes closing for a moment. "Yeah," she said softly. "I get that." The silence between us wasn't uncomfortable. It was full of understanding, full of the quiet promise that we were going to take things one day at a time. We didn't have to figure everything out right now. We just had to be together, and that was more than enough. I leaned down and kissed the top of her head, my heart feeling fuller than it ever had before. "I'm really glad we started this." She looked up at me then, her eyes shining with something more than just affection. There was a quiet certainty in them. "Me too," she said. "I think we're exactly where we're supposed to be." And as I looked down at her, I realized that she was right. In this small, quiet apartment, with nothing but the sound of our breathing and the soft glow of the lamp, I felt at home. I felt complete. There was no more hesitation, no more wondering what could be. We didn't need a grand moment. We didn't need a perfect plan. We just needed this, each other. And that was everything. As I pulled her a little closer, I knew that whatever came next, we would face it together. No rush, no pressure. Just us. And in that, I found a peace I never thought I'd have.